Let us pray. Almighty God, the creator and ruler of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our actions so that we always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria in general and Lagos State in particular. Amen. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. You are all welcome to today's meeting. Let us quickly go through the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 14 October 2021. Ojú ìwé kọkànlá léwó kẹwàá léwó kọkànlá léwó pé àtúnṣe ráńpẹ́ wà ní wọ́n ṣe kọ àwọn òǹkà ìwé lẹ́yìn kọkànlélẹ́rìnwó kẹtàlélẹ́rìnwó aṣòfin àtúnṣe láti wà aṣòfin kásìlì.
ẹṣẹ́ olùdarí ní ojú ìwé kẹtàlélẹ́rìnwó yẹn ní òǹkà karùn-ún ní abẹ́ ìtẹ́wọ́gbà àbá mo rí orúkọ mi bẹ́ẹ̀ àmọ́ bí wọ́n ṣe máa ń kọ́ tẹ́lẹ̀ ọ̀nà ṣe kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ tẹ́lẹ̀ wọn máa ń kọ́ ní aṣòfin kásùmù a àti rí àmọ́ a nìkan ló wà ń bẹ̀ kò sí rí ní ibẹ̀. ẹ ṣe olùdarí.
Àkọ̀wé àgbẹ̀dẹ kan ṣe àtúnṣe bí wọ́n ṣe kọ́ ọ̀hún.
ṣe rí
Aṣòfin láàyè bí.
wọ́n rò pé kìíní ìwé tí ẹ wò yẹn wọ́n
tó
tí àbá ní yọ akọ̀wé lẹ́nu kàákàn yọ pínì yẹn
Àṣẹ rí 12 lé léríwó ní àṣẹ tó máa ń rí 10 lé léríwó ẹgbẹ́ kan ṣe àtúnṣe àtúntò ẹ ṣe. I have examined the fruits and proceedings of Thursday, 14 October 2021, and approval is here granted. Any message from the governor?
The Right Honourable Speaker, sir. Distinguished honourable members, there is no message from
Any
the
other
government.
announcements?
Sir, there is no announcement, sir.
Petition?
None, sir.
Matter of urgent public importance? Personal explanations? Reports? None. Business of the day, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the first business for today is in respect of House of Assembly Bill number 41. The bill is supported by myself, by Honorable Adams NB, by Honorable Mrs. Miranda ML, Honorable Mrs. Sogodara MR, Honorable Afini OS, Honorable Shulaja Saka N, Honorable Ogundimu O, Honorable Jimo OW, Honorable Muhammad FJ, Honorable Lua OF, Honorable Owolabi IAO, Honorable Akisoya AN, Honorable Mrs. Ali Macaulay KM, Honorable Olumo SL. With your kind permission, Mr. Speaker, I move that the Lagos State Data Protection Bill 2021 be read for the second time. I so move.
Honorable Tijani Suraju.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I ask to second the motion as moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those against me, the ayes have it. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, sir. The Right Honourable Speaker, sir. Distinguished honourable members, it is a great honour and privilege to read for the second time a bill for a law to promote the protection of personal information processed by the public and private bodies, establish minimum requirements for the processing and protection of personal information, establish the Data Protection Commission, and for connected purposes. Thank you very much.
Honorable Afini.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is a bill that is actually needed in Lagos State, considering the peculiarity of the state and the amount of data churned out on a daily basis. Quite all right, there's a Nigerian Data Protection Regulation already, which is a subsidiary legislation of the NIDA Act, that's the National Information Technology Development Agency. However, having a law is one thing, and then ensuring compliance is another thing. So the objective of this is like what they have in the European Union, where we have the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. However, the members of the member nations of the European Union have legislations that create inspectorates to monitor compliance in their various countries. So more objective of this will be that what the federal can't see that is going on ground, the state will be able to monitor it and ensure that corporations are complying, because Section 37 of the Constitution actually provides for the rights for private and family life, where it talks about the rights to telephone privacy and other online privacies and privacy generally. So it is actually quite good, and other objectives will be it will help monitor the data controllers and the data processors so that they won't manipulate the data of people, of citizens. An example also, after the NDPR was created, is a case in court right now by the Digital Rights Lawyers Initiative, that they took the NYC, that's the National Youth Service, to court because they actually published the yearbook containing the corps members' information without consent. So this bill will make sure that all corporations that deal with data get consent of the data owners before they actually use it for what they want to use it for, and they spell it out explicitly what they actually want to use the data for. So the bill, as it was put together, there are, however, some observations in the way the bill was put together, and going to section 8 on the functions of the board, the last subsection there, D, where it says carry out such other functions as may be expedient to give effect to provisions of this law, I actually think is vague, and we need to recouch it so that it prevents overreach. Also, section 13, where we talked about power to delegate, is giving room for it to be personalized when you are saying that enforcement powers under this law to any person. The commission may delegate any of its investigating or enforcement powers to under this law to any person. So it can just be given to an individual, and the individual can, do what they want to do with it and put sentiments into it. Then also section 15 under the enforcement of notice, where we have penalties under subsection 6. The fine, I actually think it is not, it is too little considering what some big corporations do. If we look at a quick example that comes to mind is FedEx and UPS in New York, where the traffic offense that road users get the most is parking tickets. These companies already know that they're going to get parking tickets, so they are ready to break the law. At the beginning of the year, they just pay the commission that is in charge of it, they just pay them up front, like, okay, we know we're going to get fines for this, and they just pay. So if we leave this so low, there are big corporations that will just pay, and they'll do whatever they want to do, and that they won't be complying with the law. So I actually think it should be a percentage of their last revenue, their last published revenue, so that at least it would be able to deter the corporations, and they will be able to comply with the law. There are other sections that we can go on and on about, but in order to not to take your time so much, I would just want to plead with my colleagues to support this bill, as it will help with the fundamental rights of our citizens, and it would be good for our listening. But one last thing also, there's a section where it talks about
Chairman, we have a lot of people waiting, so you need to round it up.
Okay, sir. But lastly, this is quite important. That's why it just came to my mind. Where it is required for people to be corporations to register with the commission when it's created, and they expect them to pay on a yearly basis. I don't think these corporations will be willing to do that, to come and pay for them to be monitored and for them to be fined. So I just think they should come and register for free. Then we monitor them and we can maybe generate revenue through penalties if they go off the law. Thank you, sir.
Why did you put on your lights? Your light was on.
I didn't know it was on. My apologies, I didn't know it was on.
Honorable Akison.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon, my colleague. With this bill, if we follow it to letter, I believe the bill is out, and if we follow it to letter, I believe there will be no place for any criminal in Lagos State anymore. I just want to speak to Section 9, appointment of the Executive Secretary. It should be that they should put this subject to confirmation of the House of Assembly. I believe that on page 14, if we go to page 14, section 20(2)(4), that section, sir, this we can look at the penalty. The penalty there is, if you see, if you look at that page, this section can also carry penalty for an unauthorized officer who entered the premises without warrant or without a valid warrant, sir. So we can do something about I believe we can look at that penalty and change it, sir. So that's the reason I just want to speak to. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, sir. I think this bill is right in time with the nature of Lagos State as a state that controls most of the economy of Nigeria, and relating to the importance of this bill on the floor of the House. Lagos State should take an advantage position by making sure that this bill will provide cybercrime. It will reduce cybercrime activities, which is ravaging our economy, especially in Lagos State. It will protect both private and public sector data, in the sense that during the post-pandemic era, we all agree that most of the companies were hacked, their staff were hacked to start working from home. If a staff is working from home and there is no protection of data from the online where this data is actually being protected, it means a lot of data could be distorted, a lot of data could be tampered with. So if this bill is enacted, it will ensure that, companies' data, both private and public sectors' data are adequately protected, and more so, it will increase the robust archive. That when you have information, you can usually, at the glance of your fingertip, you can get this information, and this information will be reliable. And more so, this bill will enhance our economic potential, because when people feel that they are built, there is a right for them for their data to be protected. This will adversely increase the activities of people that will be willing and serious to put more data in possession that will be useful, and most of these things will be adequately protected. I want to enjoy all my colleagues that Lagos State is taking a position that is very, very good. As a state that is poised for development. If this bill is given support of all my distinguished colleagues, it will enhance our potential as a citizen of a good state. Thank you.
Honorable.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Fellow members, good morning. Well, Honorable Speaker, sir, it is obvious to me from the submission of the chairman of the committee that he is also not convinced about this bill. And for me, I would not know. I mean, it looks more like a revenue generating bill for the government of Lagos State, and we are here to make laws for the general people, the people generally of Lagos State. And the first thing that comes to mind is, of what importance is this bill to the ordinary man on the street of Lagos? It is our practice here.
Sorry, please, Honorable Abiru.
Yes, sir.
Can you do away with the, I think you are sitting in it, so we can hear you very well. You marks or you shift.
God bless you, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yes, like I said, sir, obviously, it does not appear to me that even the chairman of the committee is convinced about this bill that he's talking about this morning. And except if we have little or no information about it. And part of what we have said before now is when bill coming to this house that there should be an interaction between the proposing ministry and the house for us to let us into the importance of this bill. The bill to me personally is quite vague, and it is more of like a revenue generating bill for Lagos State. And at this point in time, we need to be very careful. I mean, the effect of COVID on businesses in and around the state is, it's quite devastating. Some businesses are just still trying to recover from the effect of COVID on their businesses. And if it is mainly for taking data of companies in Lagos with heavy fines, and I think, for me, I think I will want this bill relooked. I'll probably be represented, sir. My position.
Sorry, before you take your seat.
Thank you very much.
You've just allayed your fear about this bill concerning economic situation. So we are talking about collecting data from individual, at least that can be stockpiled. Don't you consider that face-to-face security situation? And having at the back of your mind that where there is no security stability, economy cannot flow.
Well, I feel you, Mr. Speaker. I have only expressed a personal opinion here.
Yeah, I know.
And for real, there are various information out there that government needs to synchronize. We know this is part of our problem in Nigeria. We don't have adequate data. But again, like he said, this bill is, what we're trying to do this morning, from what I heard from the chairman, is try to domesticate it. Understand? So if a law actually exists, you can write on that back and do what is appropriate of us, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, thank you. Honorable Togo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Well, I rise up this morning to support this bill because of the importance of this bill and because these days of technology advancement that we are all keying into. I feel that if this bill is passed into law, first it will save off time waste where people need to donate their information at all quarters. There could be information leaking. Secondly, it will prevent fraud. Thirdly, it will prevent people transferring information without the consent of the owner. And if there are fingerprints taken, it could be stored in the archive, and if a crime is committed anywhere, mere putting your name or your fingerprints, it will bring out the details of such person. I feel this bill is so important and so germane to us. Then, Mr. Speaker, I observe some points, some issues in the power of the commission. The issue where it was stated that the commission shall have power to receive gifts, either it's stated with fraud or not. That is the section, sorry sir, power of the commission, section 5B, accept gift and donation, whether subject to any trust or not, as may be required by the commission in perform of its function under this law. That clause, whether subject to any trust or not, we need to be wary of that. Then section 6F, that's section 6(2)F, where they say the retired commissioner of police in the data protection. I don't really see reason for that. Even if it's SSS, DSS that store information about people, better. But by the time we start involving all the agency, it may become so weedy. So, Mr. Speaker, for now, let me just stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, the Right Honourable Speaker, distinguished colleagues. As the name connotes in the bill, you can see that it has a lot to do with protection of data. And like some of my colleagues have said, it will be able to protect the data, especially the information of the individuals or firms or public enterprise. This bill, it is well arranged and it explains very well how data protection is very, very important, especially with the 21st century that we find ourselves and in respect of the cyber crimes that we are facing everywhere nowadays. If the bill is passed to law, it's going to reduce cyber crimes, probably, and since most of those data have been well protected, at least it's going to save us a lot of things. And doing that protection is not just a legal necessity, but it's crucial to protecting and maintaining our information. That is what the bill is going to work into. With what Honorable Abiru said in respect of this bill, sincerely speaking, I'm having a doubting mind in respect of it when he was explaining his own case. But at the same time, I do think we have been able to secure our data very well. Probably it will have reduced a lot of challenges that we are facing. And most of the times, highly embarrassing most of the times, that whenever you need information, especially that has to do with the government agencies, they'll be requesting for the same data from you. When you go to this office, they'll tell you, don't worry, bring it. It's still the same thing that they'll be asking you. And when we are talking about this, if you go through this bit very well, it means your data cannot just be released to anybody without getting the information from you, which is one of the reasons why I believe that it's very, very important for us to get it. And when we are talking about the revenue or all those things, mostly all these things, the revenue is secondary, at least to protect, and that is part of the duty of the government, to protect lives and properties. By the time we're able to do all those things, maybe probably the restfulness we are facing in the north and the southeast, it will have reduced, because all those people we used to call faceless gunmen, S-men, be able to identify them if we have a very good and data protection. If this data is being passed, just my own advice, which is in respect of those of the bill, if we pass this bill, I will suggest that the data must only be used specifically for what is stated for, and you must not store longer than necessary. That a situation whereby you'll be keeping the data for more than 10 or so many years for you and not unused. So those are my own observations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I would like to rest my opinion based on a particular section of the Constitution which Honorable Kende Joseph actually just mentioned, Section 14(2)(b), protection of lives and property. This bill is actually quite apt, and I feel like the bill, according to my own understanding, is a bill that seeks to minimize the effects of the misuse and abuse of personal data and establish an impartial regulatory body to ensure the personal data of people is actually protected and processed in a fair and lawful manner. Sir, I want to lay credence that if we don't have to wait for when things get worse before we are proactive in nature. Lagos State has been known to be proactive in nature, which is why we still remain the center of excellence. I want to lay credence to the fact that if, for example, during the days of the NSAS situation, there were assets and properties that were lost to the sacrilege that happened during that period. If the valuation of the assets were done, say, technologically, and protecting all the interest of the state, which they used to do manually, it may have been able to safeguard us on a lot of levels. But if we now look into this bill at this time, I feel like it is not only apt but timely, and making sure that everything that has to do with data protection is adequately looked into for the benefit of Nigerians. Thank you. And Lagosians in particular.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Very honest speaker. This bill, anything that has to do with data collection is a good one, but I'm apprehensive about some areas that has to do with fundamental human rights. Because to some extent, it may subtly infringe on the rights of individuals. We know the overzealousness of our security agencies to the extent that they collect data of they now start to embarrass people after collecting data. So we have to look into those areas very well to ensure that we protect the rights of individuals. But that notwithstanding, I have a number of observations in subsections. For instance, section 6, which has to do with establishment of and composition of the governing board. We are talking of data and information management. And Ministry of Information, Strategy and Technology is excluded from this list of the board members. I believe that Ministry of Information is very, very key and it should be represented on this board. Also, section 6.1, subsection 6.2, subsection E, that has to do with a cyber security system professional. Does not define it properly, because somebody with 1 year experience can be invited. Maybe the number of years of experience is also important for him or her to be on the board. It has been defined for the executive secretary in other sections, but for this particular person and a representative of there are two sections, two members of that board that was not properly defined, sir. I also look at section 6 of section 11 that has to do with confidentiality and oath. Section 3 is penalizing the executive secretary to the tune of about 1 million naira for the infringement of fundamental, giving out information. 1 million naira is too little for such, infringement, because we have cases, just like the chairman of the committee was mentioning, the issue of somebody can, if there's the data of about 20 million naira or 1 billion naira that can be leaked out, so people can take risk. So this penalty should be either not only him or her being penalized, but that penalty should not be all, should be earned imprisonment, or we escalate the penalty. Apart from that, I want to urge that, just like my colleague said earlier, that proper briefing from the executive, from the proponents of this kind of bill is also important. Also how important, because we have some observations. But by and large, I think I support the bill. Thank you.
Lastly, Honorable Alloted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me quickly pick it from where my honorable colleague from Badagry, also my second, tried to stop. That having the necessary agency to come and brief us on this bill, it will have even help us more. Mr. Speaker, to me, I'm confused also, like Honorable Abiru has said. I'm looking this bill as a duplication of duties, because presently we are having a LSHA, Mr. Speaker. About 2-3 weeks ago, or a month, when we were discussing about a forensic bill concerning Honorable Victor and Honorable Shokunle, who is going to be, I think we are also talking on the issue of information and data collection. You know, Mr. Speaker, to me, with the situation of the country and our state, when we are talking, there is no money. if we are now having another commission on the issue like this, why can't we look into the LSHA? Why can't we strengthen the LSHA? Why can't we look the one we are talking on? So because I'm confused, maybe if the relevant agencies are here or the ministry to come and give up more information on this, to me, I would say it's just a wasting of time, wasting of taxpayer money and the resources. You can marry everything together, LSHA, forensic something, and I think they are also going in the same direction. That is my own candid opinion on this basis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The bill on Lagos State Data Processing Bill 2021 is hereby committed to House Committee on Honorable Afini and his team to report back in 2 weeks. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the second allotted day, we have a report on Lagos State Legislative and Research Institute Bill 2020 to be presented. And to do this, I seek your permission to move that the House reverts, that the House dissolve to Committee of the Whole. I so move.
Honorable Afini.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Those against nay, the ayes are it. The chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, this is the report of the Joint Committee on Education on Lagos State Institute of Legislative Studies Bill 2020. It's actually resumed deliberation for the second allotted day. Mr. Speaker, the House at its plenary session on Tuesday, 4th May 2021, deliberated on a bill for a law to establish the Lagos State Institute of Legislative Studies to be charged with the responsibilities of conducting quality academic and professional research, training and advocacy on democratic governance and legislative practice and procedure and for other connected purposes, and thereafter committed same with the Joint Committee on Education, Ministry and Agency and Tertiary Institutions for further scrutiny and to report back to the House. Consequently, the Joint Committee on Education organized a stakeholders meeting on Friday, 28 May 2021 at the Assembly Pavilion to seek input in form of memoranda from concerned stakeholders on the proposed law. Mr. Speaker, on the 7th of June, we laid and presented the report of the committee, and at that session, honorable members deliberated, issues were raised, which led to, the commitment of the report to the committee for representation and for reworking. And I want to seek the leave of Mr. Speaker to move on to recommendations.
Granted.
Thank you, sir. That's clause 6.0. Recommendations. From the observations, comments by honorable members and the memoranda submitted by the stakeholders the committee recommends as follows. That 1, the long title of the bill should be redrafted to read, the Lagos State Institute of Legislative Studies and Research to be charged with the responsibility of conducting quality academic and professional research, training and advocacy on democratic governance and legislative practice and procedure and for connected purposes. And the short title shall be Lagos State Institute for Legislative Studies and Research. Roman figure 2. In the interpretation clause, the following be defined. A, the Governing Council means the supreme decision-making body of the institute. B, statutes means rules determining the organizational structure and administrative procedures of the institute. C, House means Lagos State House of Assembly. D, Selection Committee means Selection Committee of the Lagos State House of Assembly. E, ex officio means members of the Governing Council who are members by virtue of the office they held. F, local government means local government area includes local council development area. Roman figure 3. In clause 3, with the side note, objectives of the institute be redrafted to read: A, serve as the principal focal point of legislative activities relating to promotion of efficiency, uniformity, and improvement in the quality of legislative service. B, ensure attainment of quality academic and professional research, policy analysis, training, documentation and advocacy on democratic governance and legislative practice and procedures as sustained. C, conduct research in legislative work, constitutionalism, and legislative practice and procedure. And D, carry out any activity that will enhance capacity of legislature and other critical stakeholders to sustain democratic governance in Lagos State. Roman figure 4. In clause 4A, line 1, the phrase act as the center of excellence before the word research be deleted and the phrase provide excellent academic be inserted. Roman figure 5. In clause 4D, line 2, the phrase including honorable members' aides inserted after the word officers. Roman figure 6. In clause 4E, line 1, the phrase legislative arm of be inserted after and. Roman figure 7. In clause 4I, line 1, the words and councillors be inserted after legislators. Roman figure 8. Clause 4K be deleted completely and renumbered accordingly. Roman figure 9. Old clause 4M, now 4I, be redrafted to read thus: understudy and conduct research into electoral processes in the state and prefer improvements in respect of the process and procedure. Roman figure 10. In clause 4O, now 4N, line 1, the phrase develop and propose criteria to be inserted before the word sensitize. Roman figure 11. New clauses 4P to S be created and to read thus: P, grant of honorary awards, fellowship certificates, and similar educational awards. Q, initiate and fund independent legislative projects in the areas of advocacy, research, and policy analysis on a grant or contract basis through public and private sector support. R, provide critical research materials and policy insights to support committees of the Lagos State House of Assembly. S, provide a platform for researchers to share findings with parliamentarians and other practitioners and publish original research in the field through articles in Lagos Journal of Legislative Studies and monographs in the Lagos Library of Legislative Studies. Roman figure 12. In clause 5A, line 2, the word and legislative be inserted and the word political. Roman figure 13. Clause 5D be deleted and renumber subclauses accordingly. Roman figure 14. In clause 6, line 3, the word political party be inserted before religious. Roman figure 15. Clause 7 be redrafted With a new side note, establishment and composition of the Lagos State Institute of Legislative Studies Governing Council. To read those. Clause 7.1. That is established for the Institute, the Lagos State Institute of Legislative Studies Governing Council, referred to in this law as the Council. 2. The Council shall comprise of A. The chairman, who is versed in legislative, administrative, and constitutional matters. B. 2 members of the academia from the Faculty of Social Sciences and Law of any reputable higher institution of learning. C. 3 former legislators of the State House of Assembly. D. 5 members appointed on merit to reflect the 5 administrative divisions of the state, among whom shall be a woman. E. The Director General of the Institute. F. An officer from the House not below grade level 15, who shall be the Secretary to the Council. 3. The Chairman and members of the Board, with the exception of ex officio members, shall be appointed by the Selection Committee of the House. Roman figure 16. Clauses 8 will be drafted with same side notes, power of the Council, and to read those. The Council shall have powers to A. Approve the plan of the Institute, B. Consider and approve the program of studies, courses, and research to be undertaken by the Institute, C. Approve the annual budget of the Institute, D. Determine the general policy of the Institute, F. To erect, provide, equip, and maintain libraries, lecture halls, halls of residence, and other buildings or structures necessary for the Institute. G. Constitute relevant subcommittees to assist in executing specific assignments for the Institute. H. Determine the fees to be paid for research, consulting, training, and any other services that may be offered by the Institute. I. Promote and undertake any other activity that, in the opinion of the Council, is calculated to help achieve the purposes of the Institute. Roman figure 17, clause 9 will be drafted to read thus. Members of the Council, other than the ex officio members, shall hold office for a single term of 5 years only. Roman figure 18, in clause 10.2, line 3, insert the phrase Chairman Committee on Selection and delete the word Speaker. The same be repeated in clause 10.3, line 1. Roman figure 19, in clause 10.3, line 2, insert the phrase subject to the approval of the House, provided such person is given a 1-month notice after the word so. Roman figure 20, in clause 14, line 1, delete the number 5 and insert 7 after the word B. Roman figure 21, clause 19 be drafted with side note, Director General of the Institute, and to read thus. 1. There shall be for the Institute a Director General who shall be appointed by the Selection Committee subject to the confirmation of the House. 2. The Director General shall be a person of integrity who possesses a minimum of 10 years post-PhD in social sciences or humanities, in addition to managerial competence. B. The Chief Executive and Accounting Officer of the Institute. C. In charge of the day-to-day administration of the Institute. And D. Responsible to the Council. 3. The appointment of Director General shall be subjected to a competitive exercise and shall be advertised listing the requirements for qualifications to the public, from where the best candidate amongst the shortlisted are interviewed and appointed. Roman figure 22. Create a new clause 20 with side notes, tenure of office of the Director General, and to read thus. The Director General shall hold office for a period of 4 years and may be renewable for another term of 4 years, only on such terms and conditions as may be specified in his contract of appointment. Roman figure 23. Clause 21.3, line 3, insert the word welfare after the word discipline. Roman figure 24. Clause 22 be redrafted to read thus. The council may appoint such fit and proper persons on permanent, temporary or contract basis as staff of the institute as it may consider necessary. Roman figure 25. A new clause 23 be created beside note moderator of the institute to read thus. 1. The Speaker of the House is the moderator of the institute. 2. The moderator may conduct a visitation of the institute in person or direct that visit be made by such person as may be appointed in that regard. 3. It will be the duty of all officers, members, authorities, and employees of the institute to make available necessary information to the moderator or other person conducting a visitation in pursuance of this section. Roman figure 26. A new clause 24 be created with side note pensions to read thus. A. The staff of the institute shall be entitled to pensions benefits under the pension reform law. B. Nothing in the law shall prevent the employment of a person to any office on temporary or permanent basis on terms which may preclude the grant of pension. Renumber subsequent clauses accordingly. Roman figure 27. In old clause 24, now clause 25 2b, line 2, insert the word endowment after the word gift. Roman figure 28. A new clause 26 be created with the side note statutes of the institute to read thus. C. Subject to this law, the institute may make statutes for any of the following purposes. D. The composition and constitution of any authority of the institute. E. Specifying and regulating any other matter connected with the institute or any of its authorities. F. Specifying the minimum entry qualifications by regulating the admission of students in the manner prescribed and their discipline and welfare subject to the state policy on education. G. Determining whether any particular matter is treated as an academic or non-academic matter for the purpose of this law and of any statute, regulation, or other instrument made under this law. H. Making provision for any other matter for which provision by statute is authorized or required by this law. 29. A new clause 27 will be created with side note, mode of exercising power to make statutes to read thus. 1. The power of the institute to make statutes will be exercised only in accordance with the provision of this section. 2. A proposed statute will not become operative unless it has been approved at a meeting of the council by the votes of a simple majority of members. B. Approved by a resolution of the House. Remember subsequent clauses accordingly. Roman figure 30. In old clause 26, now clause 29, line 5, delete the word federation and insert Lagos State after the word day. 31. All clauses 25 and 27 are deleted and merged in the new provisions in the new clause 30 with the side note quarterly and annual reports to read thus. The institute shall submit its quarterly and annual reports to the House. Roman figure 32. All clause 31, now 33 of the bill is drafted as follows. Any writ of summons, notices or processes or other documents required to be served on the institute shall be deemed served by serving same on the Director General's office or any member of the management committee or by sending same through registered mail to the head office of the institute. Roman figure 33. In old clause 31, now 34, the words in or are, is or are, in lines 4 and 5 should be substituted with words like any person, a member, agent, or employee, in line with modern drafting styles. Roman figure 34. Still in old clause 32.1, now 35.1, line 4. Delete the word board after D and insert the word institute. Also effect same in old clause 32.2, now 35.2, line 5. Roman figure 35. In old clause 32.2, now 35.2, line 4, delete the word administrator after the word D and insert Director General. Roman figure 36. In new clause 36 with side note, power to make regulations is inserted to read, the institute may subject to the approval of the House, make regulations in accordance with regulations approval law for carrying into effect the provisions of this law. And Roman figure 37. Remember all clauses accordingly. Clause 7, conclusion. The committee expresses its gratitude to Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Dr. Mudashiru Ajayi Obasa, and members for the opportunity given to carry out this assignment. We also appreciate the acting clerk of the House and the Secretariat for their support at ensuring the timely completion of the report. I thank you very much. Signed by Honorable Gani Babatunde Okola Osoni and Honorable I.A. Owolabi. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to move that the report as presented by Honorable G.B.O. Sonny, Chairman Joint Committee on Education, be adopted for debate. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Council.
I'd like to second the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Who goes first? Well, on my side, I would like the chairman to further explain the word moderator and the purpose of the moderator's visitation to the school. And there's also a provision in the clause that says the selection committee of the House will select, those that will run and manage the institution. But as far as the separation of powers has been conferred globally, but there is always room for fusion, where both the executive and the legislature see exercise certain power on the same subject. So I would suggest, if it is acceptable to all of us, that after the selection committee, it should be subjected to the approval of the governor, because making it the House affairs only, I don't think it will be, I don't think it looks, sounds well enough, but it's subject to what we think. But I think, like every other consideration, while we have the power to select and do everything, it still should be subjected to. And the last one for me has to do with the 36. A new clause 3 says, side no power to make regulation is cited to read. This is subject to the approval of the House make regulations. That will slow them down. It looks or amounts to the fact that the House is the one dictating or regulating whatever. So it should be drafted in such manner that subject to our Lagos State approval regulation law. That's, I think, will be better instead of couching it in the manner it is. That is my own personal view. So the committee can further explain the reason why they've arrived in what we have here. So, who was Honorable Abiru?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Away from your points, which I take as valid too, sir, I wish to ask the chairman of the committee how this institute is going to be funded, because in all of this bill, I have not seen anything like funding for the institution there, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable SOB.
Yes, I'm still following that trail. I want to know why the committee recommends. I am trying to locate it here. Instead of speaker, they said chairman, selection committee. I think we need to be assertive. This is a legislative institute, and of course, we should not shy away from the fact that the legislative institute is answerable to the House of Assembly. So why do we need to be euphemic in stating what should be? The committee is recommending that instead of the speaker, we use chairman selection committee. Who does not know that the chairman selection committee is the speaker? So why do we change the word speaker to chairman selection committee?
Any other person? Honorable Muiwajimu.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I just want to draw the attention of the committee chair to the formation of the governing council, where 2 members from the academia will be taken from Faculty of Law and from Faculty of Social Sciences. Indeed, in some institutions, they use it interchangeably. Some use Faculty of Humanities instead of Social Sciences. Some use Social Sciences. And since eventually it's going to become law, if passed by this House, it will be good to avoid any ambiguity by including Faculty of Humanities beside pari passu with the number of faculties that have been listed in this section, which is section 7B. Section 7
is Faculty of Sciences and Humanities and Nursing.
It was just listed Social Sciences. It's just Social Sciences and Law.
I did not Social Sciences and Humanities.
Some university or some institution uses
The content of the course. The content of the both courses that Humanity and Social Sciences.
It depends, Mr. Speaker. The section B of it said 2 members of the academia from Faculty of, it was categorical, on Faculty of Law and Social Sciences. I was thinking, it should be incorporated.
So to expand the scope. But in addition to that section you refer to, I think I also have reservation about the numbers of the board. The clause says 3 former members, if I'm right, then 5 people representing the 5 divisional days of the. I don't think it's crowded. That is my own view. I think instead we can limit the participation or the selection of former members to the divisional, that anybody that will be selected from division should be a former member with such mental capacity. Instead, we have to select 3 members, then you now go to each division, you start picking. By the end of the day, you are having about 15 members of the board. It will become crowded and ineffective. So let's reduce it that anybody that will come from each division should be a former member who has the legislative experience and educational capacity, not just being a member, a former member, because being a former member may not help at the end of the day if he or she does not possess the qualities of what is needed in such institution. So let it be described. You don't have to state it in the bill, but that number, no, I don't think we need to reduce it. So, Mr. Chairman, is there any other person? Mr. Chairman, can you quickly take all this?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. All that you have said is germane and has been noted for necessary amendment. Mr. Speaker sought to know who the moderator is. The moderator is Mr. Speaker, being the head of the legislative arm of the state. And this is a bill that has to do with the House of Assembly. So instead of using the word visitor, we decided to use moderator. Visitor, because moderator, because it's not a full-fledged academic institution like the university. So moderator is usually used while talking about polytechnic or colleges of education. So that's why we use moderator. Selection committee of the House, subject to the approval of the governor. Well, Mr. Speaker, it also makes sense to me, but earlier on the committee thought, and from all the memoranda received, we thought it is legislative affair. That was our thinking then. But like I've said, I think it makes sense. It's supposed to be a state affair, not legislative affair. So that has been taken note, sir. Approval by the House, subject to not subject to the House. Approval by the selection committee, subject to the House. I don't know.
No, that wasn't the question. That's the regulation, the institution's regulation. Before it, they must take approval from the House.
Yes.
So instead of couching it in that manner, we should just subject it to the normal Lagos State approval, regulatory approval law, or regulation approval law. It's as simple as that. So that simply means after whatever they want to do, they can always write the House. That's almost the same thing, but the manner in which it's being couched is just to conform with the established principle.
You see, our thinking was, well, usually from other ministries, when they bring things like this, we said subject to the approval of the House. So, but if you say it should go that way, we take it along. Again, Honorable will ask about funding. If you go to the bill itself, under fund, we have funds of the institute, and it is clearly spelled there on clause 24 of the bill itself.
So it's not stated in the recommendation. That is what they're saying. Except we want to explain that.
No, it was not an issue for contention. Okay. When we earlier presented.
Okay.
So that was why it's not. Then, majority leader require that we explicitly mention speaker instead of chairman of selection committee. The chairman, everybody knows the chairman of selection committee is the speaker. So if we use it, we can use it interchangeably. It's a matter of semantics. It's a matter of semantics. Governing council, said Faculty of Law, Social Sciences. I don't really know what your take is, Honorable Jimo. I think it is in order the way we have couched it. Former member from the division, and that also makes sense to me, sir. Yes. So those members will be picked from the divisions. But mind you, Mr. Speaker, only three members of the House were recommended to be part of this governing council. So I don't know, maybe we have to make it 5 instead of 3.
Just need to be that we have 3 members.
Okay.
Honorable Bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I just wish to further clarification, sir. I mean, what we have in section 24 of the bill is funds of the institution. We are talking about the institution. The institution has to be set up. And probably, so I was just only wondering, I mean, where the funds for...
What do we have under the fund of the institution? What are the things we have under the fund?
He said the funds, you know, the institution has to be in existence before we talk about funds for the institution.
No. After the law.
Yes, sir.
After the emergence of the law, it is natural that there will be provision of fund for the kickoff of such institution or agency, whatever it is. If it is in the process of creation, under the fund of the agency or what is the title now?
Institute.
No, the one we are talking about, the section we are talking about, the fund.
Funds of the institution.
Yeah, the funds of the institution.
Yes, sir.
Is to state where the source of the financial listing of the institution is, either through allocation from state government, grants, revenue generation, and others. So in the beginning that you are referring to, there has to be an allocation from the state to kickstart. So as such cannot be provided in the process of lawmaking, because it is not clear either the House will accept it at the end of the day or reject it.
I just wish that, you know, it's a law. There should be no ambiguity. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, if there is no other, honorable Togo.
Well, Mr. Speaker, like you readily advised, I think you are trying to state that 3 members, instead of duplication of picking 3 members and at the same time picking 5 members, that we should make it 5 members, each representing division. So the issue of 3 be deleted, so that it will not become so weedy. I think that was Mr. Speaker is trying to...
Sorry, take that again, I didn't.
I said Mr. Speaker is trying to, I think what you are trying to say, sir, is that the item 7, clause 7C, where 3 members, former legislator of the State House of Assembly, and D, where we have 5 members appointed. So instead of having 3 and having 5, that we should just pick 1 each from each division, which will represent the division of the state, rather than making 1 leg 3 and the other 5, so making 8. Instead of that, we should go for 5. I think that's what we are trying to say, sir.
No, that wasn't. It shouldn't be former members' affairs.
Okay.
When you have 5 former members, like you are creating an institution for former members. So we are talking about, we are creating opportunity or participatory role for the former members, just to share experience of what the parliament, is or looks like. So we should allow those that have the academic knowledge to have, a recognizable number instead of dominating. If you say 5, how many members do we have in the board? We are talking about 2 from institution, from the universities. We are talking about only 2. So we are now bringing 5. I don't think it started. If we have 3 trees, they are going to select. In fact, they can subject the other 2 to educational listening. But I don't know, but I think 5 is much. We can, Honorable Appreciate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I just believe we should do it either because of the voting. This thing should be.
You can start. I can't hear you very well.
Mr. Speaker, sir. What I'm trying to say, sir, is because of the voting system, maybe they should either 9, 5, or 7. 8 is
even. So
that's what I'm thinking about. Thank you, sir.
I think the chairman doesn't need to vote until there's need to have deciding votes. So if there are 8, does it include the chairman? If there are 8, the chairman doesn't vote until there is need to, to take a decision. So it's 7. And there's no way 7 will tie, that you need the 8th person to come and interview. So if there's no any other observation, can somebody move for the adoption of the recommendation as the resolution of the Honorable Togo?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. with those minor corrections, I want to move that the recommendation of the committee be adopted as the resolution of the House. Thank you.
Who is seconding? Honorable Suraj.
I second the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I move that the House revert to plenary. I so move.
Honorable Akisoya.
I second the motion as moved, sir.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, at the Committee of the Whole, the House took the presentation of the Committee on Tertiary Institution, Joint Committee on Education, Tertiary Institution. Sorry, sir, I take it here. At the Committee of the Whole, they have took the presentation of the Chairman Joint Committee on Education, Tertiary Institution, and Ministry and agencies, in person of Honorable Sonny GBO, presenting for the second allotted day a report on the Lagos State Institute in Lagos State Legislative and Research Institute Bill 2020. The members took up the chairman on his presentation in respect of observations as to the report, and the chairman clearly explained those queries of. At the end of the day, the recommendations of the committee were adopted as the resolution of the House, and on that note, the House reverted to plenary. Mr. Speaker, I wish to state that that's what transpired at the Committee of the Whole. Thank you.
Honorable Kassim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to affirm that that is a true reflection of what transpired at the Committee of the Whole.
Honorable Suraj.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to score the affirmation.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Now, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we've come to the end of deliberations today, and with your permission, I move that the House adjourns to Tuesday, 26th day of October at 10 o'clock. I so move.
Honorable Temitope.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay. Before the ruling is taken, there will be a short meeting immediately after sitting. The ayes have it. This House stands adjourned till Tuesday, 26 October 2021 at 10 a.m. prompt. I rise.